Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am not out in the garden today because frankly it's cold and it's windy. So I am inside today, but I did want to give you a summary of how our Christmas market went. It was the only Christmas market that I did this year and the very last market of 2022. So it is now the middle of November. We don't really have any fresh flowers growing out in the garden that are of any quality to sell, but I have been drying a lot throughout the season. So I had a lot of flowers that were dried and ready for use in my Christmas market projects. And the first thing that I wanted to do was make some dried flower pots. I did sell a few of these at our last couple of outdoor markets and they seemed to sell fairly well. They went along with the dried flower pumpkins that I also made, although those had sold way better. So for these small pots, I thought this would be a great way to use some of the dried flowers, but not worry about, like the pumpkins wouldn't last more than, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or so, but the pots would theoretically last forever. I had a handful of dahlias that I dried that were really, really nice, and I ended up with only about 3 pots that I was happy with. I took an entire evening working on these and I was a little bit disappointed. I really wish I hadn't have started by filling 12 of these pots with moss and then only using 3, but I did end up selling the 3 that I brought to the market. I'm sure if I had had more dahlias and maybe some more bigger focal flowers, I could have ended up making all 12. I really liked the 3 that I did end up bringing. But I didn't really have enough of those big, beautiful dried flowers to really make any sort of quantity of these. When it came to my next project though, I had been planning this one for almost a year. I found these plastic fillable Christmas tree ornaments at a local craft store last January, but because it was January, they all ended up being 80% off. So I picked up, I think 6 boxes for next to nothing, really. I think the boxes full price were $12, so whatever 80% off of that was, which was not much. I really wished I had bought more though, so I ended up going on Amazon and buying 2 cases of 24, which ended up being 80 of them all together, including the ones that I bought on clearance. The ones on Amazon ended up costing about $2 each though. But when it came to pricing these at the market, I averaged my costs so that I kept them all the same, just to simplify. The ones on Amazon were also glass. So they did have a slightly different look than the ones that I bought. Both of them though, although they appeared round from the front, they were a flat oval shaped when you turned them, so they didn't take nearly as many flowers to fill as if they had been perfectly round. Filling these ornaments turned out to be a lot easier than I expected. Most of the flowers were small enough that they dropped right in, or at least the pieces that I use. Some of them, like the eucalyptus, was a little bit trickier. The gomphrena was a bit bigger than the space, but it ended up, as long as you put it bottom side in first so that the petals folded, the little tiny bracts or petals folded up, it popped right in without any damage at all. My favorite flowers to use in these, other than the gomphrena, was statice. I had amobium, eucalyptus, lavender was a really nice one. And I also ended up using some grasses and amaranth that I hadn't planned on at the beginning. And these turned out a lot better than I expected and sold really well too, just as much as the other ones. I really wish that I had had more straw flowers, but I used them all in my dried flower pumpkins. I only had 6 straw flower plants this year. So for pricing, the glass ones I bought on Amazon were the same size as the smaller plastic ones I got on clearance. I ended up selling those for $4 and the larger plastic ones for $6. So I'm sure that's why they sold so well, but I'm also sure I can put the cost up by $1 or $2 for next year, especially if I'm not able to get any ornaments on sale or clearance like I did this year. So in addition to those things, I also brought to the market, I had about 40 cloves, extra cloves of elephant garlic, of which I sold, I think, 25. And also some plastic canvas crafts that I have been storing for the last couple of years. I used to do a lot of sewing while watching TV. I don't really watch that much TV anymore, not even in the evenings. Honestly, that's when I do most of my editing. But years ago, when I did more of this plastic canvas, I actually designed my own patterns. And I have some for digital download actually on an Etsy shop, but most of the bigger ones I sold to Leisure Arts, and they had a print book published. So I had some of those there as well as some of the actual finished crafts. I think you can still find that book on Leisure Arts on their website. So I'm going to have a look, and if it's there, I will put the link in the description. But if you do any plastic canvas and are looking for smaller patterns, I have a whole bunch on my Etsy shop priced between, I think, $2 and $5, most of them are. So I'll share that down below as well. But I thought since I had so much of that extra stuff, and it's mostly themed around like dress up items for kids, and I thought that would be a good way of filling up the rest of my table space. So now that I'm done with the Christmas market, I have a ton of ideas, some things that I would do differently for sure, and also some things that I would like to add for next year. So the first thing that I wish I had done differently is to load the car the night before. I know this seems obvious. I had the tables in there, but I knew I would not get up with my 6 o'clock alarm. I got up around 6:30. I had breakfast. I was hoping to leave the house at 7:15. I left at 7:35 instead. But really, I wasn't rushing my setup. I was done about 10 minutes before the market opened, but being done a little earlier so that I could walk around and check out some of the other vendors also before the market opened would have been really nice. The second thing I wish I had done was to set up my entire display a few days before the market at home so that I could make some tweaks, decide what I really did need and what I didn't. I sort of had a general idea of what I wanted to do, but there was a bigger shelf and a couple other smaller things that I brought with me that I didn't end up using. And the third thing was better planning in terms of the temperature and what I had worn to the market. I knew it was an arena. We were planning to be a little bit on the chilly side, so I had a nice warm vest. I had my biggest sweater with a couple of layers underneath. What I didn't realize though was that there was a warm room. That was the perfect location because I could see the coffee vendor on one side of me, about 30 feet away, and the washrooms on the other side of me, about 30 feet in the other direction, and 10 feet from the top of the stairs where everybody was coming in. It was a fantastic location. But before the market even started, I got too warm. So I had to ditch the vest, ditch the sweater, and under that, I just had this white waffle shirt that I sleep in most of the time and is not meant to be worn in public. Hopefully my nice festive Jingle Bell headband distracted from that a little bit. So wardrobe is always something to be considered for sure. I always assume that I'm going to be cold and bring extra layers, but I did not expect that in an arena I would end up being too warm. And the last one really is my packaging. I had some nice paper bags and the glass ornaments came in little bubble wrap sleeves, which was great because I could easily slip those back in. But there were a few times when I had 3 or 4 people at the table all picking, which ornaments they want, and then me trying to wrap them and get them in bags. So after the market was over and I had a chance to think about it, I thought if I could get some boxes where I could have 4 ornaments arranged, pre-packaged and ready to go, maybe with the lids off so they could see the more even clear lids. I think I've seen those somewhere. And then they could just grab a box and not have to worry about picking out individual ones and having them wrapped. That would be really convenient and save a little bit of time and hassle. But I think those pre-packaged sets would be a really good idea for next year. And I'm definitely going to be making these ornaments next year as well. They were a big hit. I do have to increase the price a little bit for sure, but the ones that I bought ended up being perfect because I used every usable bit of flowers that I dried. I have nothing left, I think, except for a small bundle of dried grass. Every single thing went into those dried flower Christmas balls. So it really was perfect, but I am glad that I only booked the one market because I would have had nothing left if I had any more of them to do. So in addition to the things that I wanted to do differently, I have a few things that I want to add to the market next year. I won't be doing plastic canvas because I just don't do as much of it as I used to, and it takes way too long to produce those things for it to be profitable. And I'd really like to stick to the theme of flowers, dried flowers. So along those lines, I want to have straight bunches of dried things such as statice, straw flowers for sure, amaranth, and grasses would be the big ones. I think the straight bunches would sell pretty well. I have had people asking for things like that, but I just didn't have enough this year. The other thing that I thought might be fun, I've been playing around with pressing flowers, just in very small quantities for the last year or so, but I'd like to get an actual flower press and try maybe making some Christmas tree ornaments using resin. I've seen molds that are the shape of a Christmas ball with a little hole on the top and everything, and I think having those with some dried flowers in it would be really gorgeous. And I saw some at a Christmas market up in Cape Breton, but I didn't see anything really like that here at our market. So that's something that I'm going to be looking into for next year as well. If I'm going to go for the dried flower Christmas ornaments, I'd like to have a couple of different styles so that people will have some options. The plastic or glass balls were really great because if you get tired of those, you can pull the flowers out and then add something else. I've had people say that, oh, those are too nice for the tree. I'm going to hang mine in my window, whatever lets them enjoy it for longer, so they don't have to put them away at the end of the Christmas season when they take the tree down. So those are my thoughts and plans anyway. And I know some of you will be curious, and I don't mind sharing that I made $465, I think, in sales at the market, which I was very happy with for our small town. I was hoping to clear 300, so I'm definitely happy with that number. The table fee was $40. I spent about $40 on bags and packaging. All my table setup was stuff that I already have. The boards actually that I hung the ornaments on, I bought at IKEA to use elsewhere in the house, and I just never got around to putting them up, so those came in really handy. And then I think all of the glass ornaments, glass and plastic ornaments that I bought to fill came to around $150. But deducting those three things, the profit was around $230. It was a 4-hour market. It was 5 minutes drive from my house, 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm not counting mileage or anything like that. So that's pretty reasonable, but I do have plans to do even more for next year. So going forward through the winter, I am still going to be making videos. Obviously, there will be a little bit less content out in the garden, but I have a few more projects to do, and not just in the garden, but in the greenhouse as well. And thanks so much for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.